So I'm trying to think. It's got to be 15 years ago or so. I was connected up with a local store owner of spirits, and he said there's a guy that's famous in the spirits world, in the bourbon world, that has signed a bottle because he listens to you in Louisville, Kentucky on the radio, and he signed a bottle, and you need to come by and pick it up. And it's a friend of mine owned the store, Tim, and I went by and I got the bottle of Angel's Envy signed by the legendary Wes Henderson. And in the bourbon world, I was just completely, it's like I had the Rolling Stones had signed an autograph for me. And it was pretty cool. And fast forward just a few months later, they were doing an event at that particular store. Wes was down, and I got to come down and meet Wes Henderson, and he and I became instant friends because I'm such a fanboy, for one thing, of what he does and how he does it. But also he loves business, and he loves the stuff that we do at EntreLeadership. So we had a lot to talk about from day one, and I became enthralled not only with the whiskey, but with the family business aspects and the whole story. Our guest today is Wes Henderson. He's the co-founder of Angel's Envy, one of the most innovative bourbon brands of the last decade, one of the most profitable too. He built Angel's Envy alongside his father, the legendary Lincoln Henderson, who was a master distiller at Jack Daniel's and pioneered the cast-finished bourbon and creating a brand that changed the whole industry. And after selling that company, Wes turned his focus to a new family venture with his sons, who are also master distillers as well. And the company is now called True Story, a whiskey brand built around connection, legacy, and storytelling. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to do a little storytelling. Welcome, Wes. Good to have you.
Thanks, Dave. I appreciate it. And I tell you, you've come a long way in your bourbon journey. You really have. It's been a joy, though. It's been a joy over the years being able to share bourbon and, sit around and where there's some cigars being smoked. And that's really what bourbon's all about. So I'm really happy to talk about it today.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And watching you guys, watching your whole journey, you've been through, I've watched you do about 3 or 4 different iterations of you were just barely into the Angel's Envy thing when I met you, and I watched you go all the way through that, and then the sale of that, and then the new startup, and what's happened with the boys. The boys are grown up during that time, and your sons into the business and become, they're in master distillers and brands in their own right. So take us back to the beginning. I've heard the story, but I think it's fascinating. Your dad, Lincoln, retired from Jack Daniel's.
He did.
And how did this Angel's Envy thing then happen?
Dad was at Brown-Forman, which owns Jack Daniel's and all those brands, for like 40 years. And Dad's latest concoction, let's call it, or his latest discovery at Brown-Forman was a brand called Woodford Reserve. So that was really a walk-off home run for my dad. So Dad retired and gave Dad some time to chill and relax, and realized he was a little bit bored. And that directly led to us sitting down and talking about doing Angel's Envy.
Yeah. And so talk about so you and your dad say, okay, we're going to do Angel's Envy. We're going to use his master distilling expertise, your marketing expertise, I guess. It's going to come together.
That's right. And really, the way it came together was really cool, and I kind of skipped over that a little bit. But it was literally me sitting in the basement with my father, telling him I wanted to start a bourbon brand. And Dad said what dads do. He said, sure. And it happened like that. And on a day we had no idea how we were going to get there. We knew it was a long path to entry, but we felt like we were going to embark on it. And we felt like we had to be different. And that's what we forged on to do with Angel's Envy.
I don't remember seeing a bourbon finished in a port barrel before I saw Angel's Envy. I think that's the first time I ever saw it. Were you the first ones to do that?
We're the first ones to do it and be successful at it. It happened a few years ago, but like a lot of things, it wasn't the right time for it. It was a good whiskey, but we took some cues from Scotch. We knew that the whiskey industry needed a little bit of a turnover and something to spark things, and we felt like we had the expertise and we had something cool and fun to do it. Now, it wasn't without some detractors. It was a controversial move when we started it.
Yeah. And so talk about the production of that, because, and then how you land on the price point, because it blew up. It was massively successful. But it was partly because you could produce it in volume, and it was partly because of what you produced in volume, and it's partly because of the price point you chose to be in. Because in a single barrel world, you all did a blend.
We did. Right. I think it was a very deliberate decision to bring a new style of bourbon to a price point that was affordable, yet it was still super premium. And at the Angel's Envy price point, and same with True Story, we felt like we could bring in people new to the category, yet we could still bring in bourbon aficionados as well.
Yeah. Well, and I guess Lincoln's palate. I mean, just his ability to blend those barrels in such a way that it created a generic enough, predictable product that it garnered the reputation of just being excellent. I mean,
Your dad had a great palate. That's one thing that I've always noticed, and I think I've been blessed to kind of get that from him. But to create a whiskey that's very approachable and has a mainstream approach, that opened up a lot of doors for us. The bourbon demographic is expanding, and we brought in more women to the category. We brought in younger people to the category. It wasn't your typical bourbon, older guy, male-dominated demographic. We brought in a lot of people to the party that weren't there before.
So you gathered up some barrels. You finished them in port barrels. You put them in the market. What year was it that first bottle hit the shelves?
We launched in 2011. We were supposed to launch in 2010, but the barrels weren't ready yet. And we weren't going to release anything before it was ready. That's kind of become one of our mantras in the company. So in 2011, we came out with the first bottles of Angel's Envy.
Yeah. And to be clear, the whiskey was already aged. The only question was how long it was going to be finished in the port barrels.
Exactly. We did what a lot of producers do and still do. We sourced our initial whiskey. We had it produced for us to our standards and our taste profile. And then we would take the whiskey. We would do the finishing in those port casks. We would do the blending, and then we would do the bottling.
Yeah, and that gets the generic hit and gets the flavor profile right where it needs to be and be consistent, so that you don't open one bottle and then another bottle and they're way different.
Exactly, and that's the artistry to it. We're taking barrels from all over the warehouse from different producers, and it has to be the same every time. It's like the puzzle has to look the same every time, but the pieces are different every time as well. So consistency was really big, and plus, look, we were sourcing whiskey that was produced by other producers. We weren't just going to stick that in a bottle and put our name on it. Finishing set us apart. It allowed us to put our mark and the blending, all that. Yeah. And there's so much talk about master distillers, and I think it's very important. But at the end of the day, the blending is the art form, and it's not just the art form in making it work consistently. It's the art form in innovation, and that's what we're really good at.
Well, and something I figured out, I was doing a deal with years ago, a guy that had a restaurant. He had a barbecue sauce, and the barbecue sauce was great until he tried to produce 1,000 cases of it. And when we went to volume, the chemistry all changed. It screwed up the whole thing. They almost never got it the same. They never got it. He could do small batches in the kitchen at the restaurant and get it just like he wanted it. But when you go to a vat in a factory to do barbecue sauce, it changed the whole deal. You know what I'm talking? And I suspect you kind of run into the same thing here.
It's the whole thing. It's the same thing. Scalability is so important, and keeping on top of consistency and quality, and making sure that you cannot let any drift happen with that product. You've got to be so vigilant to make sure that when you're scaling it, it's being scaled the right way, and take your time in doing it. But I've seen a lot of businesses try to do that, and it doesn't always work.
So that thing, if it's 2011's the first bottles hit, that's about the time I probably got a bottle from you signed. I mean, you guys must have been just coming out, and so that thing went up and to the right hard. I knew it got big, but I don't know if I realized it got that big that fast. Because you guys, it became one of the top most profitable brands out there by the time that things changed. So. Then Lincoln passed away. At what year was that?
That was 2015.
So you had 4 years of this.
We did.
Okay. And then you and your mom are owning it at that point, right?
Correct, yep.
And you guys made a decision to sell.
We did.
And what year was that?
We sold in 2016 to Bacardi.
So it was a 5-year run.
Yeah, it was a 5-year run.
Man, I had in my head this was a decade. That's so wild. You sold it to Bacardi in 2016. Did. Is the number public?
It's not.
Okay.
It's not.
I won't bring it up then. Okay.
Yeah.
I know what it is, but I didn't know if it's public. Okay.
It was a good deal.
It was a good number.
It was a good number.
It was an incredible number.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you guys sold a lot. of whiskey in 5 years.
We did. We did.
And the bourbon craze was probably at its zenith also.
It's
cooled off a little bit now compared to what it was. Yeah, it was like anything you touched that had brown water in it was going nuts. And so, and you rode that horse well. So during that 5 years, you have meteoric growth. Does that put a strain on the family business parts?
Oh, absolutely. I don't know if the strain, I think, well, there's certainly strain anytime you're sacrificing that much and you're spending that much time on a business and you lose work and family balance. I mean, that's always a strain. And that's part of being an entrepreneur. You just have to, you got to figure out how to live with that or you're in trouble. I think our biggest issues came probably when it became time to sell the company. And then you've got a tremendous asset like that. You're trying to make sure that that's what you want to do. It's the right time to do it.
And that's with your mom.
Right.
It's who's recently widowed.
That's correct. Right. Yeah. So, I mean, there was definitely some stress, a lot of stress points there. And to this day, I think there's still residual stress points from that. And a lot of that has to do with, my dad and I did not foresee what that company was going to do. And we did not do a good job of preparing ourselves, be it with making our wishes known clearly, be it with proper documentation, all those things as to what would happen if Dad passed. And that caused a lot of heartburn with everybody, really did.
How old was he?
Dad was, I think, 73 when he passed away.
Okay.
So, he was a melanoma survivor for a long time. I think, though, when Dad decided to do this, we knew in the back of our minds that we were going to lose Dad probably sooner rather than later. And this was his kind of way of, okay, let's do something with my son. Let's do something with my grandsons. And let's spend the last years of our lives together doing something fun that we enjoy.
So were the grandsons old enough to be involved early in the deal, or they came in later?
One of them was. My oldest, Kyle, I think was about 18 at the time. But look, it was all hands on deck with us, Dave. We were filling sample bottles in the garage as a family. When my kids were little, they would help bring the glass bottles over to the table and we would fill them and all those things. So they were already involved. But Kyle, the youngest, was not even 21 yet.
And he's a master distiller now, right?
Kyle is he's more of a productions director than anything. But the boys all have distillation experiences. But one thing I think I've done a good job with the boys is that I'm putting them in all different aspects of the business. I want them to learn supply chain, marketing, operations, finance, all those things, distribution, all those things. I don't think we've done as good of a job as we could, but we're certainly fighting the good fight and trying to make sure they know those things.